just maximize this here. The Imam just called me, tell me not seen anybody. I don't know if he got on, the Imam. I don't know if he probably logged into the wrong meeting. I was not talking to the Imam, I don't know.
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, wa alaikum assalam.
All right, Ayin.
Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah. All right. So today, inshallah, let's fix this camera here. Right. So today, inshallah, we're on page 24, right? And Safa Arba wa Ishrun, we will have, started the numbers last week, meaning the numbers from 11 to 20. We mentioned it the week before, and last week we delve a little deeper into it. So as usual today, inshallah, we just want to recap that, the numbers from 11 to 20, all right? And then we will go on with the chapter. Inshallah, finishing off the chapter today, and then probably about 7:45, so 10 to 8, we will just read through the new lesson in chapter 4, inshallah ta'ala. All right, before we begin, any questions on what we did last week? Anybody have any concerns? Okay, so we're just going to recap quickly on page 23, Thalatha wa Ashrun. We're going to read over the numbers from 11 to 20. Remember, in this chapter, we are dealing with the Mudhakkar, the Ma'dud Mudhakkar. That is the Ma'dud that is masculine, the counted thing that is masculine. Later on, in a couple chapters later, we will deal with the Ma'dud that is feminine. Okay? So we see here all of the examples. Here is one word, Taliban, masculine, of course, right? And we see how these numbers from 11 to 20, how they are applied for a masculine singular, Ma'dud, right? Counted thing. Well, we should say, we can't say masculine singular because all the Ma'dud after 11 is in the singular format. We don't use plural, right? Even though it's 11 of that things, right? Of those things, even though it's 11, 12, 13, 14, we use the singular noun, right? In this phrase. Right? Now, just recall when we were doing the numbers between 3 and 10, we said that the adad, which is the number, is the opposite gender to the ma'dud. The similar thing applies here. The adad from 13 to 20, just remember 3 to 10, and now we're dealing with 13 to 20. The first part of the adad is opposite gender to the ma'dud. All right? Whereas the second part of the number, it is the same gender as the ma'dud. Okay? So let's look at it here. So we have Ahada Ashara Taliban. So see, you all say after me, just as a refresher. Ahada Ashara Taliban. Ithna Ashara Taliban. ثلاثة عشر طالبا. أربعة عشر طالبا. 15 طالبا 16 طالبا 17 طالبا 18 طالبا 19 طالبا 20 طالبا. Right. Anybody can remind me of some of the other points we made about these numbers from 11 to 20? We said a few things about them. Anybody want to remind me of what we said? I just mentioned one thing, that the first part of the number when you count in from 13 to 20, of course, it's what they call a compound number. So you have two words make up the number, right? So ثلاثة عشرة, two words, right? ثلاثة عشرة, two words. And the first part is opposite gender to the ma'du, the thing that is counted, all right? So any other points about these numbers? All right, so from 13 to 19, the case doesn't change. So they are what they call mabni. So ثلاثة عشرة طالبا. Notice that they are carrying the fatha, like in the case of nasb. Okay? So no matter where they occur in the sentence, they don't take dhamma, they don't take kasra, they always take fatha. That is from 13 to 19. Always take the fatha. But it's masculine and feminine, take the fatha, right? So the case doesn't change. Any other points? If you want to say anything, you can unmute your mic and mention anything. We have Brother Nishon, Imam, you have Yahya, Galaxy, J2Co, then there's Brother Shazim, Brother Latif, Mickey, Brother Sheriff, Sumaya, and Zakaria. Mashallah. Anybody else? Anybody? Any other points about these numbers? Mm-hmm. So we said 13 to 19 is a declinable, they are mabni, right? However, 20 and um, 12, they are not mabni, they are mu'rab, you can change, all right, depending on the case. All right, so you can get ithnai ashara with the alif chinita ya and so on, depending if it's a different case and so on, all right? If there are no other points, we'll go on with the chapter here. We went through this exercise last week. I think this was homework. So if anybody wants to give up the homework, right, which is number 9, we're going to go through it. اقرأ ما يلي ثم اكتبه مع كتابة الأرقام الواردة. Right? So read the following sentence and write them with the numbers that are warida, or the numbers that are spelled out, right? So you have to write out the whole number. Firstly, something طالبا. واحد, number 1. Firstly, something طالبا. Anybody want to give that a try? Look at the table above. Firstly, تسعة عشرة, 19, not 9, 19. تسعة عشرة طالبا. Firstly, تسعة عشرة طالبا. In the class, there are 19 students. Let's go again. 9. عندي something كتابا باللغة العربية. something كتابا باللغة الفرنسية. Everybody? خمسة right. عندي 15 كتابا باللغة العربية و12 كتابا باللغة الفرنسية. 3. Anybody else? رأى
رأى يوسف عليه السلام في المنام 11 طالبا.
نعم كوكبا. نعم رأى يوسف عليه السلام في المنام 11 كوكبا. Right? Yusuf عليه السلام, Prophet Yusuf, saw in his sleep. في المنام means saw in a dream then, or he dreamt. 11 كوكبا, 11 stars. Right? رقم 4 عندي 20 ريالا. عندي 20 ريالا. نعم. 5 نعم. كم فندقا في هذا الشارع؟ فيه 13 فندقا. Right? How many hotels are in this street? In it or in this street, there are 13 hotels. Okay? في هذه المدينة 14 مسجدا. In this city, there are 14 masajid, 14 masjids. Right? ثمن هذا الكتاب بكتابين. ثمن هذا الكتاب 17 ريالا. The price of this book is 17 riyals. Right? في هذا الكتاب 20 درسا. In this book there are 20 lessons. في السنة 12 شهرا. In the year there are 12 months. All right? Good. So we did the numbers. We would always come back and recap this because we have to always be reminded as to how this is constituted, right? From 3 to 10, we had 2 words to deal with. That is the adad and the ma'dud. The adad was just 1 word, and the ma'dud was 1 word. Now we're dealing from 11, 12, up to 20, up to 19. It's 2 words. It's compound words, right? So each one has its own rule. Each part of the compound word has its own rule with respect to whether it's mabni or not, with respect to masculine, feminine, with respect to um, um, whether it agrees with the not ma'dud or not, right? So we will always refresh our memories with respect to this, right? As I said, later on, probably about chapter 6 or so, we would look at the feminine ma'dud. So we will revisit this again in a few chapters' time, inshallah ta'ala. All right, so we're going on to the ordinal numbers. We mentioned this last week briefly. So we're going to go a little more in depth into this, right? So, اقرأ ما يلي, read the following. واحد الدرس الأول. الدرس الأول, the first lesson. الدرس الثاني, the second lesson. الدرس الثالث, the third lesson. الدرس الرابع. الدرس الرابع. All right, don't forget You have the alif lam, so you have to join straight to the ra. The lam is silent here, right? Then you have ad-darsul khamisu, ad-darsul khamisu, the fifth lesson. Ad-darsul sadisu, sixth lesson. Ad-darsul sabi'u, seventh lesson. Ad-darsul thaminu, eighth lesson. Ad-darsul thasi'u, ninth lesson. And ad-darsul ashiru, the 10th lesson. All right? Now there's a note here. Al-awwalu mu'annathuhu al-ula. So awwal is used for masculine and al-ula is used for feminine. Right? So let's take a note of that. It's right here. Awwal is masculine, al-ula is feminine. All right? With the others from 2 to 10, all we do is we add a tal marbuta at the end, right, to get the feminine, right, as we do other normal nouns and so on, right? So let's see it here. Look at the example you gave right in the same brackets here. At-talibu, right. At-talibu al-awwalu, right? At-talibul awwalu. At-talibul awwalu, right? At-talibu means the student. Al-awwalu means the first, okay? So it comes like a adjective. Adjective, you know, has to agree with the noun is describing in the definiteness, in the number, in the gender, and so on. All right. So at-talibu al-awwalu, the first student, right? At-talibatu al-ula. Look at the feminine version here. At-talibatu al-ula. At-talibatul ula. The first student, feminine. All right. So we have at-talibul awwalu, at-talibatu al-ula. All right. So one is masculine, one is feminine. Any questions on this so far? So we notice in here the difference between this ordinal number and the other numbers before. All right. Have this clear in our minds. When we before what we did in the first lesson is that this is adad and ma'dud. Adad and ma'dud, where you're counting the amount of something, right? Counting the amount of something. So, ثلاثة عشر, إثنا عشر شهرا, 12 months, right? You're counting the number of months, right? Whereas here with the ordinal numbers, we are saying, we are talking about one thing or one group of things, right? And we are talking about its place in a whole line of other things, okay? So when we say al-awwal, we say in the first, meaning the first in that list or the first in that line, all right? So if we would say ash-shahrul awwal, ash-shahrul awwal fi sana, or the first month of the year is Muharram, all right? So here the number is not added, is not counted. We're not counting the amount of months. We are saying where that month is falling in an order, in a list of other objects. All right. So it is not added and ma'dud. Here it is like an adjective. It's describing that noun in terms of where it is falling in a list. All right. So here we say the number or the ordinal number coming after the noun. Is that clear with everybody? Anybody confused about that? Understand that, no? You understand? You understand how that's it? You understand? All right. Anybody else? Anybody don't understand?
Estaba patente to something?
Yeah, it basically if you watch it here, you see the aleph basically being introduced after the first letter, right? Aleph lam to make it definite, and you have the aleph. So instead of اثنين you have ثاني. Instead of ثلاثة you have ثالث. Instead of أربعة you have رابع. Instead of خمسة you have خامس. Right, so this is basically the pattern. You have the three root letters. In the case of ثلاثة, it is the ثا, the لام, and the ثا. In the case of أربعة, you have the را, the با, and the عين. In the case of the خمسة, is the خا, the mim, and the sin. So these three root letters, and they put in the sticking the aleph after the first root letter. Right? So ثالث رابع خامس سادس سابع ثامن تاسع عاشر. Alright, so that is basically the pattern there for these. And we will see how we look at the ordinal numbers after 10. Right? Like حادية العشر ثانية عشر ثالثة عشر. And we would have been introduced to this informally in the book 1 when we look at the number of each chapter, right? الدرس الأول درس الثاني درس الثالث درس حادية العشر درس ثانية عشر, and so on, right? So you look back in book 1, we would see the top of each chapter and how they use the ordinal numbers, all right? So any other questions there? All right, so we have a little practice exercise here where we have to put in ordinal numbers to correspond to the number given in the brackets. See the number given in brackets here? So each question, we're at the end of page 24. Each question, there's a word, then there's a space, and then there's a number in brackets. And that number in brackets, we have to use the ordinal number to correspond to that and fill in the space. All right, good. So I'll do the first couple, and then I'll ask the volunteers for the balance, okay? So the first one is al-yawmu, the day, and then we have in the brackets, we have number thamania, which is 8, all right? So the ordinal number for thamania is what? Thaminu. So we will say al-yawmu al-thaminu, al-yawmu al-thaminu, the eighth day, all right? Next one is at-talibu, and the number in brackets is what? Is thalatha. So we would say at-talibu al-thalithu, right? Just simply look to the table above. All the words are right there. So just look to the table above and you'll know which one we have to apply. Okay, good. Next one, any volunteers? Ad-darusu. Now, ad-darusu al-ashiru. The 10th lesson. Anybody else? All right, so we have a feminine word here. Let's see how we apply this one now. Volunteers. All right, I'll do this as it's feminine. As-safhatu at-tasi'atu. As-safhatu at-tasi'atu. So you have the word tasi'a, at-tasi'a here, all right, in the table above. You'll see that table above, at-tasi'a, 9th. Now, because the word you're describing here is feminine, as-safhatu with the ta marbuta at the end, we add a ta marbuta to the at-tasi'a. So you get at-tasi'atu. So the same word you have above for 9th, all you do is you add a ta marbuta to it. Okay? Is that clear with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Next one, al-juz'u al-awwalu. Al-juz'u al-awwalu, the first part. The first part, the first juz. Okay? Now, next part of the column. Any volunteers again? Who do we have here? Zakaria. You want to try that? Or somebody else going? Who going?
Fisanatir Rabi'ati.
Right. Fisanatir rabi'ati. Right. So you have to add the tarmubuta to ar-rabi'a. So you get ar-rabi'ati. Right? So we have the word ar-rabi'a here. So you just add the tarmubuta to the end. Why? Because as-sana is feminine, has the tarmubuta, right? So I don't know. Jazakillah. I don't know if it's Salma or Zainab. One of the two. I believe it was Zainab. I'm taking a guess. I think it was Zainab. All right. Next one. Any volunteers again? Zakaria, Sumaya, Yahya. Anybody else? Vicky, again.
الطالبة السادسة.
نعم. الطالبة السادسة. نعم. See the word sadis here. Asadisu. And you have to add the tarmabuta. Why? Because it is talibatu. Naam, ahsant, Zakaria. Next one, al-baytu. Right, next one, al-baytu. As-sabi'u. Al-baytu as-sabi'u. Sorry, somebody was going. Rashazim. You want to take a try at that? Try the next one. Al-ghurfatu. All right, so al-ghurfatu, because it has the tarmabuta, right? We have to add the tarmabuta. So you will say al-ghurfatu, al-ghurfatu, al-khamisatu, al-khamisatu, with the tarmabuta at the end. All right. The last one, al-juz'u. You have the word al-thani. So you say al-juz'u thani. Right, the second juz. All right. Any questions about this? It's pretty straightforward. Just remember, it is not the same as adad and ma'dud. It's not the same as the number and the counted thing, right? This one is showing the order of something, all right? So here the ordinal number will come after the noun it's describing, right? Oh, I don't know. All right, so I just want to share something here. Where do I have this? Okay, I'm just gonna change my screen here just to show a few examples. Of the ordinal numbers in the Quran. All right, so just stop share. Share screen. All right, are you all seeing the Quranic ayat here?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Surah Kaf verse 22, right? All right. Oh, it's a bit big. All right, Surah Kaf verse 22. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سيقولون ثلاثة رابعهم كلبهم. And they say, three, the fourth of them is their dog, right? كلبهم. So they say, سيقولون ثلاثة. Is this an ordinal number or regular number? ثلاثة. Ordinal or regular? Regular number, right? رابعهم. رابع is an ordinal or regular? Huh? The ordinal, right? So they say three, meaning this, of course, in Surah Kaf is still, this is part of Surah Kaf that's speaking about the sleepers in the cave, right? Those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls to sleep for 300 odd years, all right? And they, meaning people, say Thalatha, that they were three in number. The fourth of them, Rabi'uhum Kalbuhum. And the fourth of them was their dog, Kalbuhum, right? وَيَقُولُونَ, and they say Khamsatun. They say five, and some people say five. Sadisuhum Kalbuhum. Sadis, this is the ordinal number here, right? See the pattern here. Sadisuhum Kalbuhum. So some people also say what? That the youths in the cave, they were five, and the sixth of them was Kalbuhum. Kalbuhum, their dog, right? رجما بالغيب ويقولون سبعة وثامنهم كلبهم. And some others say سبعة, that they were seven. وثامنهم, and the eighth was كلبهم, was their dog. All right? قل ربي أعلم بعدتهم ما يعلمهم إلا قليل. Right? Say, my Lord knows. Alam is more knowing بعدتهم, with respect to their number, meaning the number of youth in the cave. Right? ما يعلمهم إلا قليل. None knows them or knows the number إلا قليل, except a few. Right? So this is Surah Kaf, verse 22. So we see examples of a regular number and the ordinal number here. Right? We also have in Surah Ali Imran, chapter 3, verse 96. Verse 96, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nasi lalladhina bi Bakkata mubaraka. Verily, inna means verily, right? It emphasizes the sentence that follows. Awwala, notice here, awwala, it takes a fatha. Why does it take a fatha? Here. Because of the inna. Remember, inna causes the ismu inna to become mansub. So it takes the fatha. Right? Awwala baytin. And this is mudaf ilay. Right? Awwala baytin. Wudi'a linnasi. That is put or establish linnas for mankind. Lalladina is verily indeed that which is bibakkata mubaraka. Right? That was in Bakka, which was the name of Makkah before. Okay? The next example, which is in Surah Tawbah, verse 40. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ إِذْ هُمَا. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about when the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr were making hijrah. Remember, all the Muslims, they left Makkah and went to Medina for the hijrah, and the Prophet, Abu Bakr stayed back to make hijrah with the Prophet ﷺ. And they escaped Makkah and they went, or they left Makkah and they went south. Instead of going north to Medina, they went south. And they went into a cave and stayed there for a while. All right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ. ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ, this refers to the second of the two. The second of the two. So there were two of them, the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr. So ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ, the second of the two, referring to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr, right? So this is the word ثَانِيَ, which is the ordinal number, the ordinal number. All right? All right, so let's go back to our lesson here. So these are the ordinal numbers. You can go over it again, inshallah ta'ala, before next week. As I said, it's pretty straightforward. And of course, we will revisit it from time to time as a refresher, inshallah ta'ala. All right, any questions before we move on? All right, so the next two small question exercises in this chapter is basically how we respond to a question, a negative question. Negative question meaning you ask a question and you say, isn't that so? Isn't it that such and such and such? Isn't it that such and such and such, right? And of course, that occurs in the Quran, and it occurs in the Hadith, and so on, right? And of course, we mentioned about this earlier on when we dealt with Laisa and we dealt with Alaisa. So, how do we reply? We reply by saying Bala. If you want to say, if you want to reply in the affirmative, we say Bala. If you want to reply negative and say no, we say Na'am. Na'am in this case would mean no. We know. Okay? That is, if it's a negative question, we answer by saying, and we want to disagree with that statement, we say no by saying nah. All right? So, for example, if somebody asks, Anta min al-Hindi, Anta min al-Hindi, alaysa kadhalik? Anta min al-Hindi, alaysa kadhalik? You are from India, is that not so? You would say, if you want to say yes, you would say Bala. If you want to say, I'm not from India, you would say Naam. Ana lastu min al-Hindi. Right? Naam. So, you're asking, is that not correct? Is that not so? And then when they say Naam, it means yes, that is not so. All right? Mafhum? You all understand? All right, inshallah. So you see how backward, how wrong side English is, right? In English, you say yes. When you say it's not so, you say yes. Meaning that you say yes, that is not so. When you really mean yes, that it is so. So English is kind of wrong side. Arabic have it correct, right? Think of it like that, inshallah. All right? So we say Anta min al-Hindi, alaysa kadhalik? Bala, ana min al-Hindi. Anta min al-Hindi, alaysa kadhalik? Na'am, ana lastu min al-Hindi. Okay? Anta maridun, alaysa kadhalik? You are sick, is not so? Bala, ana maridun. Yes, I am sick. Anta maridun, alaysa kadhalik? Na'am, ana lastu maridun. Okay, I am not sick. Anybody confused about that? I know having spoken English for so many years, this would be kind of strange to us, but this is really the correct way to answer a negative question, all right? The next one is basically how we use the word ayyuhuma. Ayyuhuma. We know the word huma is the pronoun for the dual, right, or pairs. Right, so ayyuhuma. So when we deal with ismu tafdil or the comparative noun, comparative, we're comparing between two things. We can say هذا كتابين أيهما أرخص. These are two books. Which of them is cheaper? Right? We say هذا طالبان. These are هذين طالبين. These are two students. أيهما أطول? Which of the both of them is taller? All right. You say هذان طالبان أيهما من الهند? These are two students. Which of the both of them is from India? All right. هذان طالبان أيهما من أمريكا or wherever. All right. So that's how we use ayyuhuma, which of the two of them. So we see here, this exercise really is more like to be, these two exercises, 12 and 13, is really to be done in a face-to-face class where the teacher, right, يوجه المدرس إلى الطلاب. So the teacher faces the students and asks these questions, all right? Similarly with this, the teacher faces the students and asks, or two students at a time, and asks them certain questions, right? For example, هذان كتابان أيهما أجمل? These are two books. Which of them is more beautiful, right? And so on. Inshallah, when we meet face to face, we can practice some of these phrases and so on. All right, so we have some new words in this exercise. This brings us to the end of this chapter. It was a rather long chapter with many, many aspects to it. Inshallah, we should try to revise these things as we see the chapters in this book, introducing a lot of grammar concepts and particles and so on. All right. The next chapter we're gonna delve a little bit into verbs, a little more formally. We'll delve into verbs. We would have done that briefly before when we were doing the pure grammar, and we would have met a few of them in book 1, mainly in the past tense, right? So we're going to delve into that in the next chapter, right? So before we do that, these are the new words for this chapter, right? So we have mahja'un. The jam is mahaji'u, right? Mahja'un is the hall of residence, right? Or the dormitory. Right? Kawkabun is a star, or technically can also be a planet. All right? So it's a star or a planet, right? Depending on the context it is used. Jam kawakibu, right? Wasi'un, I think we would have met that earlier on. But again, it's here. Wasi'un means wide or expansive or spacious. All right, wasi'un. Next one. Fariqun, furaqa'u. Fariqun is like a group or a party, or like that's a team, right? Like a team. Shaqiqun is, this is what we had a problem with earlier on in the chapter, is like the full sibling, like a full sibling, right? Meaning sharing the same mother and father. Not different mothers and same father, or same mother and different fathers or something, right? So this is the full sibling, full brother. plural is ashiqqa'u. Ashiqqa'u. Next one, thamanun. Thamanun is the price, like price of object. Thamanul kitab, price of the book. So thaman is a price, sorry, right? Alam, alam mutafata. On top of the lam, it means like the worlds or worlds, right? The alam. So in Surah Fatiha, when we say al-alamin, it's plural of alam. So when we say Rabbul Alameen, Lord of all the worlds, means the world of the jinn, the world of the humans, the world of the ants, the world of the plants, the world, different worlds, right? So Alam is like the world, right? Shahirun, Shahirun means famous. Shahirun, famous. Shahrun means what? If Shahirun means famous, what does Shahrun mean? Anybody? Month.
Month?
Yes, means month. Shahrul Ramadan, right? So you see the author of this book is very wise. These two words means two different things entirely, but it's very similar. The only difference is a ya with a sukoon is put in there, right? So you very deliberately put these two, and you see that a few times occurring in these books with different words and so on. Right? So it's very similar, Shahirun and Shahrun. So you put them next to each other, so you learn two of them at the same time. This one means famous, which is an adjective, and this one means month. Shahrul Ramadan, right? And plural of Shahrun is Shuhurun or Ashhurun. Ashhurun. Right? La'ibun. La'ibun means like a player on a team, right? Like a football player, cricket player, a player, right? On a team. Player of a sport or a game. La'ibun. Right? The jam is la'ibuna. La'ibuna. Players, right? Fil manami, in the sleep, meaning really in a dream, right? Fil manami means, so if you say somebody saw something, fil manami, saw something in sleep, meaning that is a dream, they saw a dream, right? Al-Azharu, Al-Azharu is the proper name of the university in Cairo, one of the oldest universities in the world. Not only in the Muslim world, but in the entire world, one of the oldest universities that is still existing up to now. All right? Meaning still operational up to now. Al-Azhar. Good. Any questions on this chapter number 3? These are some of the new words. Try to revise them, read them over. And inshallah, as we move on to a new lesson, we should try to read over this old lesson so that we can, build upon some of the concepts we would have learned in this lesson as we move on to the next lesson. All right. So the homework from today until next week is to read over the entire of chapter 3, meaning the conversation as well as all the exercises. Just go through them again. And of course, if you all have any questions or queries, you can text me in the WhatsApp group, or if you want to ask in the next session, it's not a problem. Right, so we have a few minutes again. We're going to start the next lesson, which is chapter 4. Look at the ordinal number here. Ordinal number. Ad-darsu al-rabi'u. Ad-darsu al-rabi'u, the 4th lesson. Right, so we're just going to read through it briefly. Please follow in your books. Right, it's not a long conversation, it's just a little more than a page. So please follow in your books, and then we will, inshallah, next week we'll go through it line by line and try to break down each word. All right? Bismillah. Ad-darsu rabi'u Yusufu. Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Ibrahimu. Wa alaykum assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bika. Ya khali, kayfa haluka? لعلك بخير. كيف حالك؟ لعلك بخير. يوسف: الحمد لله. أين أبوك يا إبراهيم؟ إبراهيم ذهب إلى السوق. يوسف: وأين أمك؟ إبراهيم ذهبت إلى خالتي زينب. يوسف: وأين إخوتك؟ وأين إخوتك؟ إبراهيم ذهبوا إلى الجامعة. ذهبوا إلى الجامعة. يوسف: وأين أخواتك؟ إبراهيم ذهبنا إلى المدرسة. ذهبنا إلى المدرسة. يوسف: وأما وأما sorry not what أما ذهبت أما ذهبت إلى المدرسة اليوم؟ إبراهيم: بلى، ذهبت ورجعت بعد الحصة الأولى. بعد الحصة الأولى. يوسف: لماذا رجعت؟ إبراهيم: رجعت لأنني مريض. يوسف: لا بأس. أذهبت إلى الطبيب؟ أذهبت إلى الطبيب؟ إبراهيم: نعم ذهبت. Alright, so this is, as I said, a very short exercise, but basically it's introducing the past tense verb and its different conjugations, right? So we have dhahaba, dhahabat, dhahabu, dhahabna, dhahabta, dhahabtu, and so on, right? So we see some of the conjugations of the past tense verb, which we would have done many, many moons ago in class on the board, but here we see it being applied in the conversation, right? So we're going to read it over one more time, and you all read after me, inshallah ta'ala. Yusufu, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Again, Yusufu, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Ibrahimu wa alaikumussalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bika. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bika ya khali. كيف حالك؟ لعلك بخير. يوسف: الحمد لله. أين أبوك يا إبراهيم؟ إبراهيم ذهب إلى السوق. يوسف: وأين أمك؟ إبراهيم ذهبت إلى خالتي زينب. يوسف: وأين إخوتك؟ إبراهيم ذهبوا إلى الجامعة. يوسف: وأين أخواتك؟ إبراهيم: ذهبنا إلى المدرسة. يوسف أما ذهبت إلى المدرسة اليوم؟ إبراهيم بلى ذهبت ورجعت بعد الحصة الأولى. يوسف لماذا رجعت؟ إبراهيم رجعت لأنني مريض. يوسف لا بأس. أذهبت إلى الطبيب؟ إبراهيم نعم ذهبت. نعم. Okay. So this is the end of this conversation. Inshallah, we go into the exercise. We go into more detail into each line and the breakdown of the sentences next week, inshallah ta'ala. And then, well, we would start up the exercises after that, right? Comprehension questions first, and then some of the concepts we're looking at after, right? Any questions before we close off? All right, so we can close off with dua for kafara and Surah Al-Asr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.